Coming up on the Empowered Woman podcast.
I'm a procrastinator. The truth is, you would not procrastinate if it wasn't solving a problem. So that's where people get confused and they say, no, I need to work harder and work more and do this. No, you don't. You need to find out what you're protecting yourself from. For instance, the business person who can't get their website out because they're afraid to be seen, they're afraid to be visible. Somebody else doesn't want to have a relationship, so they keep dating people who are unavailable.
Welcome to the Empowered Woman podcast, the #1 show on visibility strategies for women entrepreneurs. If you want to get empowered to be seen, stand out on social media, stages, TV, and more to make an impact with your voice in business, you're in the right place. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Marcia Spurk, and I'm your host, professional singer and visibility strategist. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi, Carol. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Marta, it's my pleasure to be with you.
Yay! I am so excited to learn more about who you are and what you do. So why don't you kick us off? Tell us everything.
Well, I'm a traditional psychotherapist and I have a doctoral degree in hypnosis. And then someone said, you think that's fun? You got to try this new weird tapping thing. And that was 25 years ago. So I've been using tapping in my practice, EFT or tapping, to help people clear their blocks, get out of their own way, stop the sabotage behavior so they can really live the life they want to live and the life they desire and get what they want. So I consider myself very lucky and honored and privileged to be able to do this work.
Mm-hmm. That is amazing. I love that. So is there a specific kind of block that you work with people, or is it all across the board? Tell us more.
Well, the blocks are really, people come to me and they say, oh my gosh, I've tried everything, but I hear you can help people with sabotage. Self-sabotage is just getting in your own way. So you might procrastinate. You might be a people pleaser. You might be a perfectionist. You might collect clutter. You might have addictions or a weight loss issue. Maybe you're not taking really good care of yourself. Entrepreneurs, as you know, we can't empower women to be really good entrepreneurs if they're not taking care of themselves. And that's one part of sabotaging, is being too busy, working too hard, giving too much to others, and then not taking care of yourself. So all those blocks, anything that someone comes to me and says, you know what, I think I'm in my own way. I think I'm blocking myself. And then we go from there.
Okay. And what is the real reason? Like, what is underneath all of this? Why do people get in their own way?
Well, that really changed my practice because nobody had ever asked me why. And the real reason is we're trying to keep ourselves safe. What we do is we criticize ourselves. Oh, it's so terrible. I'm a procrastinator. The truth is, you would not procrastinate if it wasn't solving a problem. So that's where people get confused and they say, no, I need to work harder and work more and do this. No, you don't. You need to find out what you're protecting yourself from. For instance, the business person who can't get their website out because they're afraid to be seen, they're afraid to be visible. Somebody else doesn't want to have a relationship, so they keep dating people who are unavailable. There are a lot of things that we do, but it's actually providing something. It's actually serving you in a very positive way. You just hate it. And you haven't figured out what's going on yet. That was the game changer for me in my own life and me with my clients.
So it's kind of like a protection mechanism, but you're not really aware of it. So that's why it just snowballs into the whole thing.
It does, as I'm sure you see in all the people you help, right? You see that.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the big blocks that people have. Because for me, and I think it has also to do with different personality types, right? Some people are more introverted, some people are more extroverted, some people gravitate towards, I want to be in the spotlight, and others don't. But there's something different when it has to do with, I really don't want to be criticized, or I really don't want to be in front of people. Can you tell us more about, how that shows up, and what are some questions that somebody could be asking themselves, why they're stopping themselves from being seen?
Well, first of all, it shows up in your behavior. So people say, oh, I want different results. And I say, well, your emotions, your beliefs, and your behaviors give you results. So if you want to change your results, you're going to have to change one of those. Yeah. So it shows up by people being frustrated. And they say, I thought I was going to get that project into the boss on time. I thought I was going to complete my speech on time. I thought I was going to launch the website. So it shows up that way. And then they stop and get upset with themselves. And what I do is say, here are the questions you must ask yourself. what is the upside of staying stuck? And people say, don't be silly, Carol. I hate being stuck. I say, I know you do. And I have been also, but there has to be that upside. And then they can start turning it around, look at it through a different lens and say, oh, if I'm on stage and I'm visible, I could make a mistake and be humiliated. And I say, where did that come from? And they say, they always come up with history. They always come up their first marriage, their first job, when they were in high school, when they gave a speech, when they were on the soccer field. There's always something that creates that fear. So when they start to dig down, they go, they get it and say, oh, I'm not defective. I'm just trying to be safe, protect myself. It's serving a good purpose. Yes. If they can't answer that one, what's the upside of staying stuck? Mm-hmm. They object too much. I say, well, let's turn it around and say, what could be a possible downside of you reaching the goal that you've come to me for, that you've been to 3 other coaches for? What's the downside? And the same thing often comes out is they'll say, oh, I get it now. If I reach my goal, I'm going to be asked to be on stage. I'm going to be asked to finish the book. I'm going to be asked to present more often. And I'm terrified of that. What if I make a mistake? What if I get criticized and judged? So then again, we've reversed engineered why we're always getting in our own, why we are so often getting in our own way. So those are the best questions I have found.
Oh my gosh. That is so good to really dig deep. And typically people wouldn't think to ask those questions. But that's amazing. Can you repeat the 2 questions for us so that people can write it down and reflect on them?
Yes. So take the behavior that you're frustrated with. Let's say you're not taking good enough care of yourself, you're procrastinating. What's the upside of staying stuck? What do you mean? How does it serve you? You know, what's the positive that's showing up possibly? Then turn it around and say, well, what would be the downside of reaching my goals that I keep trying to reach, but I'm obviously in my own way. So what could be a downside? What might be a negative consequence if you actually reach this goal you've been trying to reach for so long?
So good. Please make notes and reflect on that. You know, one of the things that I really like about tapping is that it has you acknowledge where you are right now and say, I'm scared. Right. And at times you may be afraid of saying that and being like, no, I'm empowered and I'm going to go and I'm going to reach that goal. Can you tell us more about the process and explain? Maybe some people are not familiar with it too. I think it's probably helpful for us to talk about it.
Yes. So tapping, originally called EFT, emotional freedom techniques. Tapping is a way to access the brain when it's afraid and calm down the fight, flight, or fear response, which 100% of human beings have when they tune into a thought, a feeling, or an event that upset them. So if someone's afraid to be on stage, like one of your people is afraid to be on stage, what we want to do is bring up that file so we can edit it. So if I had to send you a Word document, Marta, I'd have to bring it up in my computer, edit it, and then send it to you. So what we're doing with the tapping is we're focusing on the problem, which people say, oh, I don't want, you're already focused there, or you're trying so darn hard not to focus there that you're still there. So we bring up the file. Let's say I'm afraid of public speaking, or I'm afraid of being unstuck. You know, I'm afraid of getting out there. Yeah. While you're tuned into it, you tap on the acupuncture points, and that calms down this automatic reaction you have. Now, everybody has their own reactions to different problems, right? Different challenges. So it calms it down. So the next time you go think about giving a speech, think about launching your website, think about finishing your book, the next time you don't have the same fear physiologically and in your nervous system. People used to say, oh, tapping is so cute. It's like a distraction. A distraction? No, it's not. We're actually rewiring your nervous system. And that's why I've stuck with it. People say, you've been doing it for a long time. I haven't found a better technique to calm down the stress response, the fight or flight response, our negative reactions to things that happen in our life and in our job and with our families.
And that's a great explanation. It's the opposite of being a distraction, is it you're focusing on it. And typically people would think, let me not think about it, because it's gonna, the problem's gonna go away. I love your analogy of editing the file. So you need to access the file to make a change, right? So you need to understand what's going on in there, and asking those questions is very helpful as well. Do you want to do a little demonstration for us?
Love to. I'd love to. I'd love to. So one of the things that people come to me with most frequently, and I do a lot of mentoring, as you do, I do a lot of mentoring of coaches and practitioners and therapists, is they're afraid to shine. So they're doing all this busy work to help them get on stage and do this, and but they're honestly afraid to shine. And usually that comes from somewhere, right? So they're afraid of success. What would that look like? Success would mean I'd be on stage, or I'd be writing articles, or I'd be teaching larger groups, right? So what we would do is say to the audience and to you, you can be my little echo.
Yeah.
No, you're not afraid to shine, because I know how much you're out there doing beautiful things for women. And say, if you think of yourself shining, again, on stage, on podcast, with writing your articles and books, whatever it is, 0 to 10, how afraid are you? See if you can tune into that in your body or in your mind. Say, ooh, yeah, I keep saying I want to shine, but honestly, I'm afraid of it. See if you can. If you can't get a number, that's okay, but try to tune in. Okay. And then we do the tapping. All right. So we start here, called the side of the hand.
Does it matter which hand, right or left?
No, right or left. They've done the studies now, the research studies, where you can do either side. There are points on both sides of the face and body for some of the points. So do whatever you're comfortable with. I'm right-handed. I use 2 fingers of my dominant hand, go down my right side. But we start here and we just name the problem. Here's the problem, and I accept myself anyway. And some people say, I don't want to accept myself with the problem. You need to accept yourself if you're going to change. We cannot resist what we don't like about ourselves. It doesn't work. They figured that out decades ago. So we start here, and you would just repeat after me.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Would you like to be my next guest on the Empowered Woman podcast? Do you have a story you'd like to share? Want more visibility for your business on a show ranked in the top 0.5% in the world? Well, then head on over to martasburke.com/podcast guest for more information.
Even though I'm afraid to shine.
Even though I'm afraid to shine.
I don't want to be that visible.
I don't want to be that visible.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself anyway.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself anyway.
Do it a second time. Even though I'm afraid to shine.
Even though I'm afraid to shine.
Being visible seems dangerous.
Being visible seems dangerous.
I don't feel safe.
I don't feel safe.
I accept who I am and how I feel.
I accept who I am and how I feel.
Then 2 fingers, and we tap around the face and the body. Eyebrow, this is called the eyebrow point. I'm afraid to shine because it scares me.
I'm afraid to shine because it scares me.
And either side of the face, the right on the outside corner of your eye. I'm afraid to shine. What if I don't feel safe?
I'm afraid to shine. What if I don't feel safe?
Under the eye. I'm afraid to shine. What if they criticize me?
I'm afraid to shine. What if they criticize me?
Under the nose right here. I'm afraid to shine. What if they don't like me?
I'm afraid to shine. What if they don't like me?
Shin point right here. Don't you remember what happened last time?
Don't you remember what happened last time?
Collarbone, so under one of these knobs here. I'm afraid to shine because I don't feel safe.
I'm afraid to shine because I don't feel safe.
Last, another point under the arm, about 4 inches below your armpit on the side of your breast there. I'm afraid to shine. What if I don't feel safe?
I'm afraid to shine. What if I don't feel safe?
And then we end on the top of the head. We kind of go around in a circle up there. I'm afraid to shine. What if I don't feel safe?
I'm afraid to shine. What if I don't feel safe?
Good. Then you take a deep breath. And you measure again. Don't get a different picture. You might measure if you saw yourself on the stage and got yourself 0 to 10. Ooh, I'm a 6 or a 7. You'd go back and measure and go, ooh, I'm a little better. I think I could see myself doing it. And then you would either do another negative round, is what we call it, meaning the round talking about the challenge, or you go back and say some positive statements. What happened, Marta, is that the first 15 years in tapping, nobody said any positive statements while they were tapping because they didn't need to. You calm down the anxiety or the stress, and naturally the positive, images come up. Then people were afraid, law of attraction, oh my gosh, we better say something positive. But it has no place to land if you have not addressed the negative. And that's the problem, where a lot of people say, oh, I tried that, it didn't work, I just said positive things. Well, you haven't dealt with the issue. That's why the positive statements don't work. Yeah. So make sure you've done at least 1 or 2. So we could go back right here and say again, I'm afraid to shine.
I'm afraid to shine.
I remember what happened last
I
time.
remember what happened last time.
It feels scary to stand out.
It feels scary to stand out.
No wonder I've been blocking myself.
No wonder I've been blocking myself.
I'm afraid to shine,
I'm afraid to shine.
but I thought it's what I wanted.
But I thought it's what I wanted.
I've been afraid to shine.
I've been afraid to shine.
And I accept that and I accept myself.
And I accept that and I accept myself.
Good. Take another deep breath. And then you keep going in and measuring. Oh, that feels different. Some people will say, what happened when I was in ninth grade is coming up now when I gave a speech and someone laughed at me. Then you would focus on that, edit that document, and that would be your next tapping target.
Okay. Wow. I love that you talked about the negative and then adding the positive and that people were afraid because of the law of attraction, because that's exactly what has stood out to me as I learned about tapping is admitting the things that are negative, which has everything to do with what you said. You need to edit the file. So if you're in denial about it, then you can't change it. So that's so cool. I love that.
It works. It works.
It does work. Well, and I do want to say, even though I love the spotlight and that's something that, I find pleasure in, I feel like all of us have a little bit of a fear of being criticized, of failing, especially in front of people. So this applies to me as well, depending on the situation, right? As I'm scared to go and do something else, right? I can tap right before.
Yes. Every level. So some people will say, well, wait a minute, I've gone from here to here to here. Do I still need it? Well, how do you feel about the next level? If
Yeah,
we're all up leveling and wanting to do that in our lives and our business and our friendships,
yeah,
there's another level that's going to come that might scare you just a little bit. You don't have to be a 10, 0 to 10 on the
right.
scale of fear. You could be a 5.
Yeah,
That's enough to block you. That's enough to make you go, I think I should get busy with busy work and not do what you
yeah.
really need to
And
do.
procrastinate.
You got it.
Oh man, that is so true. So how do you work with clients? Is it mostly one-on-one? I know you have some resources as well. Tell us more.
I do one-on-one and I do back to traveling in person. So I just came back from Australia, did a big group over there,
That's
and
awesome.
I'm going to the ASIP conference in Phoenix. So lots of groups, and I love doing groups on Zoom where I can help a lot of people in a short period of time, just
Yeah.
get them going and say, here's your homework, here's the next thing to do. And people, what we call borrow benefits, they borrow benefits from other people. So someone from another part of the country or another country is talking about an issue that's close to theirs or not even theirs, and they're doing the tapping,
Mm,
actually resolves the issue. So I love doing the groups on Zoom. That's a lot of fun too. So I've got a class coming up for that.
nice. That's
So,
awesome. Yeah, there is so much. Sometimes we feel vulnerable doing it in front of people, but it could bring clarity to others. Or in being in a group, you can find clarity as somebody else is brave enough to share.
yes, absolute clarity is my favorite thing. That's what if people say, what do you really help people with? Clarity. Because
Mm,
if you're not clear, you can't take the next step. And if you're not clear about your internal feelings of this is a yes for me, this is a no for me, you can't make the right decisions. You can't make the best decisions for yourself. So that's what I love doing, either in group or one-to-ones.
that is so good. I love that. Well, and I love hearing stories. So we were talking about being afraid of being in front of people. What are some client stories, transformation stories that you can think of, whether it's related to visibility or not? I'd love to hear.
Well, the visibility comes out whether it's about a website or speaking in public or being
Yeah.
on stages. And I had this one woman who said, I cannot get my website out. And it started happening week after week. And I said, what's going on? You're a great coach. You have a lot to offer. And I said, I asked the questions. What is the upside of staying busy and behind the scenes and I'm not putting it out there? And she said, well, then I don't have to have someone say it's not good enough. They don't have to criticize me. They don't have to not call. Basically, she said the downside of getting my website published and launched is that what if people never show up? You know what? I think it's so good and I have these great ideas. So once we resolved that with tapping, she was able to put it out there and said, well, the right people are going to come. But she was resting everything on this launch, right? And I work a lot with authors. And so a lot of people say, if I put my story out there, then what? Their family's going to read it. Their friends and colleagues are going to read it. What if the book bombs? What if it's not any good? So I do a lot of work with that. And someone who had a breakthrough recently who was like, I'm going to just put my story out there. Her intention was to help other people. Her block was what other people were going to say about her, right? But her intention is to help. She wants to help. She wants to have a wider impact. She wants to reach more people. Tap, 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 boom, boom, boom. All these issues and fears started to go down, and she started writing again. It was like, writer's block is for a reason. There's another block that actually helps people stay quiet, stay hidden, right? Yeah. Remember, people are afraid in many different ways to be out there, to be seen, to be visible, to stand out. So
again, it's that protection mechanism. Isn't that so interesting, right? And we have no idea that we're doing that until, again, we're prompted or we seek help, really. So that is fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing those stories. Now, tell us about some resources that you have for people that are wanting to get started. Maybe they are not familiar with EFT, or maybe they do, but they need some guidance.
Great. Well, my book is The Yes Code, Transforming Sabotage into Success. So you could get that if you wanted to do that. And I take you through all the big sabotage behaviors and how to treat them, how to address them one by one. And some people say, well, I don't have all 7 of them. That's fine. Everybody has something. So you could go do that. But a great free resource, you don't have to buy the book if you don't want to. Go to theyescode.com, put your name in there, and you can get all the bonuses. I have 9 different video bonuses and some PDFs for you, and you can learn how to do it. I have a basic, how to do the tapping, and then I address fear of shining and, all different topics there, so that's a lot of fun. And I also have a very low cost group call coming up. There's a class that they can access and listen to, and then the real program starts on June 2nd. So
okay,
fun too if they want to go further with it.
Awesome. So make sure and have those links in the show notes. Thank you for offering the resources from the book. But people go and find the book. Is it available on Amazon, main platforms?
Everywhere. Yes.
Okay, so the Yes Code. I love it. We need the Yes Code.
We do.
Go check it out. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us so far. I do have one final question. I call it my $1 million question that I ask all of my guests. Are you ready?
I am.
Carol, what is an empowered woman to you?
An empowered woman is someone who knows so clearly what's right for them that they're willing to take the risk to say no to others and say yes to themselves. That they know that they're here for a reason. Like empowered women know that they have a job to do, they have resources to offer, and they need to do it. That it's their calling. Yeah. So when someone's in alignment with that, it's beautiful, right? You see it, you know it, and you see it.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I love that definition. That is so true. We have a mission, and then we face our blocks and our fears, and we go for it. So good. Yeah. Well, how can people connect with you? Do you hang out in some social media platforms so they can start following and checking you out?
I don't. I'm a little anti-social media at the moment.
Okay.
I'm going to get back on them, but email, I love it when people email me and ask questions. So carol@carollook.com, easy. I answer my own emails still. And people say, why would you do that? Because I love connecting with people.
Yes.
That empowers me, is to be connected to people who need help. That's what I want to do. So email me and I'll be back on all the platforms shortly.
Okay, sounds great. So we'll put the email in the show notes, and people go check out Carol's book and also the resources for the book and the upcoming class. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. I hope more people will take up EFT and calm themselves down and release those blocks.
Good. Thank you, Marta. What a pleasure being with you.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope this episode empowered you. And if you enjoyed the show, please join the Empowered Woman community on Facebook and share with friends, or leave a review on iTunes so more people can discover this empowering message. Until next time, bye.